No, I didn't mean start right now. I just wanted to make. Okay, I wanted to make sure you're ready. Thank you.
Yes, I am. Sorry.
Okay. Sheldon or Janice, are you on? Okay. Is there anyone on the line who has been listening to the previous recorded sessions that we've had?
This is Barbara. I'm on the line, but I'm in a not a crowded place, but a noisy place.
Thank you. I wanted to know if anybody is listening to has listened to some of the previous sessions.
Yes.
Would you walk through how to access them, please, George? There are some people who don't know how to access.
Okay. Again, Pat, can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Would you walk them through how to access the recordings?
Okay. And Pastor, I've been basically getting on through my phone, so I'm just trying to.
Do you go to when you get to In Pursuit of Truth, right? Once you get on the website, what do you click on to access the recent recordings?
Yeah, and Pastor Richard, I apologize because I wasn't accessing it through the computer. I was basically doing it through my phone.
That's fine.
I apologize. I understood your question.
Okay. Is there anyone who's been accessing InPursuitOfTruth.net?
Pastor Richard, this is Angela. Once you get on YouTube and you type in Pursuit of Truth, then you hit the subscribe button. It's a subscription button at the bottom, and you'll hit that, and it should pull up all the videos that's on now.
So exactly what do you do? Do it again, Angela.
Okay, when you type in or you In Pursuit of Truth at the top bar, if you look down at the bottom, way down at the bottom, it'll say subscriptions. And once you hit subscriptions, it'll pop up, and you subscribe to it. And once you subscribe to it, then all the videos, you have access to all the videos.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And that is InPursuitOfTruth.net. Okay. Now, Ron, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, Ron, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Well, we can start recording. Okay. Good morning. This is Ron, and first and foremost, we want to see if we have any questions because a lot was said on yesterday. We started looking at something. We were looking at healing because we started on Monday night looking at some scripture where sometime this week, I don't remember, but we were looking at some scripture of Jesus doing some healing, and we noticed all the healing that he does in Matthew and throughout the Gospels, and we're trying to see what is taking place here, looking at it from a spiritual perspective, and it has opened up so much more to us that we kind of went in that direction. So on yesterday we were looking at chapter 9 of Matthew. At least that was our starting point, where we were looking at the guy who was paralyzed, who Jesus heals here and we gained some insight into that. And Pastor saw tons of other stuff that opened up to him that talked about who and where we are, our level of commitment, being serious about what we're doing here, and the responsibility of it, and so much more. So without further ado, and if there's anybody who want to part of this recap that they want to address, please feel free to do so. But I want to open it up and see if we have any questions concerning yesterday or anything for that matter.
Pastor, on yesterday, good morning, this is Jackie. You said something about the tornadoes in December. Could you shed some more light on that?
Sure.
And then once I saw the news, I saw, wow, it was after the fact, after the lesson, and then I thought, wow. So, yeah.
Excuse me. What I was talking about was how the animalistic attitude, has brought the earth to the brink of destruction because of greed. The climate change is a direct result of selfishness and greed, and it points directly to the animalistic attitude that is in need of being renewed, so that the attitude can shift to one of being human. That's pretty much what I was talking about, Miss Jackie. Unless there's something else, or does that help you?
It does, but could you, when you say the animalistic and the greed, I guess I'm not wrapping my mind around that.
Bottom line, this nation is greedy. This world is greedy. And what has happened is plastics, oil has been dumped into the ocean, and the ocean are unable to filter themselves because of the amount of trash that's dumped into them, and it's killing the population of the oceans. It is having an adverse effect on the ecosystem for the whole world. And in the Amazon forest in South America, they are harvesting wood, and the Amazon is where the ecosystem of the world is held in check. Every single year, the dust that came from Africa to America a few years ago, every year it goes to the Amazon. And that Amazon desert, the Amazon forest, balances the ecosystem, and that is being harvested. Now, the other thing is that because of the fracking, that is cracking the earth crust in order to extract natural gases from the earth, is also making the earth unstable with earthquakes. The over-harvesting of trees has made the earth susceptible to landslides and heavy rain. The cars, the petroleum industry has polluted the atmosphere to the extent that there is the carbons are blocking the ozone, putting holes in the ozone layer, and that is destabilizing the climate of the earth, and that is the reason the earth is heating up. And a 1 degree of heating of the earth is very, very dangerous because it results in stronger storms, more rain, more frequently. It also results in the sunshine in December, where it was snow in December. It results in hurricanes that was a Category 3. Now they're Category 4 and 5. Tornadoes were unheard of in this time of the year. However, because the atmosphere is warmer and the way that the jet stream moves and hits that warmer air, it creates the tornadoes, while at the same time, the colder air in the northern part of the country causes it to snow much more than it would have. So that's what I mean when I say that greed has brought the earth to the brink of destruction. That is why the ice is melting at the North Pole. That is why the polar bears, you see on TV where Save the Polar Bears. Well, that's because the Arctic, the ice the icebergs are melting, and the ocean levels are rising. And places like Miami, the coast of California, they are going to be underwater in the next few years unless this is reversed. So what I'm saying when I say that is that we are experiencing a very, very dangerous time in the earth. And unless we shift the attitudes of greed so that we as a people can become humans, meaning that can see the danger that we are doing for the future earth and pull away from it based upon our desire not only to save the earth, but also to save humanity. If we don't do that, the earth will deconstruct. It will be destroyed. And once the climate of the earth is out of kilter to the extent that it begins to destroy the earth itself, then humanity will be destroyed. It will not be possible for humanity to live on an earth where the temperatures are beyond the body's ability to adjust to them, either hotter or colder. Also, the land mass will be decreased, which means that the food will be decreased as well, and people will be pushed closer and closer into inland to populations where they're going to be fighting for food production. So all of these things and more things are beginning to show to show us that that's the direction we're headed in. So our responsibility is to do everything that we can to bring enlightenment into this earth, so that those who are perpetuating greed without caring about what happens to anyone can be stopped. And the only way that they can be stopped is by those who are in a position to stop them. And we know that the petroleum industry and all of the other major industries that are killing the earth are owned by Caucasians, Europeans, and people of European descent. That's who control it all. And if these things are to change, they will be the ones to have to change them. And in changing them, there has to be a birth of a new type of attitude in the earth, a type of attitude that cares about the earth, that lives in concert with the earth, a type of attitude that does not just live on the earth, it lives with the earth, a type of attitude that that transcends race and greed, a type of attitude that is beneficial to everyone on this earth as well as the earth itself. I hope that helped. If not, just ask another question, please.
It helps. Thank you. Because my next question was going to be, what is our responsibility? But you answered it. Thank you.
You're quite welcome, dear. Thank you.
Hey, Red. This is Charles. Since since for generation, white people ain't never seen the earth like Mother Earth, keeping things intact to where it won't destroy the earth. I mean, in their mind, they think. Go ahead.
I understand you, Charles. I do, and you're absolutely right. What has happened is that Europeans are like a kid in a toy store. If you put a kid in a toy store, that kid wants everything it sees in that toy store. And if that kid can have access to it, that kid will take that toy, every toy that he can get his hands on. And when it has no more use for it, it throws it away and does not care about what happens to it. When you think about that, Europeans came out of Europe, and there was no idea of they had no idea of what it meant to preserve the earth, to live in concert with the earth. Why? Because the climate in Europe was totally different than the climate in the rest of the world. And when we start looking at the different kingdoms in the world at an early time, and I'm talking about thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago, even 100,000 years ago, there were no kingdoms in Europe. When Europe was populated, it was not. It did not prosper the way that indigenous people in other parts of the world prospered, especially on the continent of Africa. There is no European culture or European kingdom that rivals the kingdoms of the Cushites, and because they were not, they did not understand or have access to the things and the attitudes of people in the East. When they came in contact with them, they were like a kid in a candy store. They took it. Everything they wanted, they took it. They did not make any efforts to live in concert with the earth. It introduced something called capitalism at a later age, and that introduction to capitalism was based upon, oh my God, what's his name? He's an economist out of Europe, Kington Economics, I think it is, and plus it lived by the values of Machiavelli when he said right makes right, and which means that only the strong survive. So you take what you want and the heck with everything else. That is how we got to this place where we are. When the Europeans went to Africa in 1444, that's when the slave trade started in Europe. In 1444, what happened is Europeans stole Africans and brought them back into Europe and forced them to labor for them, be it building houses, shipbuilding, the whole 9 yards, everything, what they forced them to do. As a matter of fact, Columbus learned how to sail when he went to northern Africa. I think it was Libya, where he learned, what's called Libya today, is where he learned how to sail. So they took all of the things they were taught, and they used them to their advantage, but to the disadvantage of everyone else. And they used them to amass great wealth, and at the same time destroying cultures, destroying the people in their wake. So that is what was the foundation that they built upon, and that is what led us to where we are right now. And all of it is based upon greed and selfishness. So I think I'm addressing what you were asking, Charles.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
I mean, you addressed it real good.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So that's where we are now, and we have a golden opportunity to make the changes that are necessary in order for us to bring some stability to the climate. However, there will not be any stability brought to the climate unless there is stability brought to the mindset of mankind. And that stability only comes when the mindset of mankind shifts to the mindset of spirituality. Understanding that the mindset of spirituality shows us how to live in concert with the earth as opposed to living off the earth. What we also need to see is this, that prior to coming in contact with Europeans, there was no such thing as religion in this earth. It was everything in the earth was spirituality / earth consciousness. If you really look at the history, you will find that the labels in religion came from Greece and from Rome, but mainly Rome, and not just a label of Christianity. Islam was never a religion until until Europeans began to define it as a religion. Islam simply means one who surrenders to God. That's it. So if it's one who surrenders to God, it's speaking to spirituality, not a label of a denomination or a label of a type of religion. The people who were the followers of Muhammad were not the only ones who submitted to God. Those people who were called Christians were also submitted to God. Hebrews were river crossers, meaning that they crossed from a life of idolatry into a life of spirituality. So until Europeans began to label things, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, if you look at all of these meanings, what you will find at the foundation of every one of them prior to these labels is that these people, wherever they were seeking continuity with the earth while understanding that they are spiritual beings and they are the gods of this earth in terms of having been created in the image of Elohim and being instructed to dominate the earth. Not dominate in terms of destructiveness, but to dominate it in terms of living in concert with it, making the righteous decisions about how to live in this earth realm as a spiritual being, and to bring into existence a earth consciousness that is equal or that is like the consciousness of spirituality, so that the spiritual Elohim could have a truly physical experience in this earth consciousness as well as the experience of the spiritual world. And that is seen in the resurrection of Jesus. When Jesus was resurrected, what we saw there is not only was Jesus capable of existing in the spiritual realm and manifesting his body wherever he chose to, he was also capable of being seen in physical form by those who had known him before and then removing himself from their presence in an instant. This is Elohim having a physical experience. So Jesus showed us that he was having a physical experience, but yet he was spiritual, because when he went to the waterfront where Peter and those were fishing, they ate. So that means that his body consumed food, even though it was a resurrected body, which tells us that he was eating, and what he was eating was for the purpose of nourishing the body, while he still was in a spiritual state, yet living in a human body. It is no different than if we live in a house, we're going to have to take care of it. There are things that are going to happen to it that we're going to have to repair. So the body is designed so that it really should not need repairing if we put the right stuff in it. And if our attitude about our Creator and our creation is correct, is right, then we will be in the position where our bodies will perform as they were designed to perform, and that is they were designed to perform so that Elohim could have a physical presence in this earth realm. Are there any questions about that? And I want to ask if I'm clear on what I'm trying to say. Are you grasping it?
I'm great.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, are there any other questions?
I have a question, Mr. Richards. I want to go back to where we started about, you were talking about the Amazon, and I thought about, while you were talking, I thought about the naval, our naval, and the purpose of it. And you were saying about that's how the nutrients, can you go back to the Amazon again? Because the navel gives balance, right? One of the purpose of it.
The navel actually gives nourishment to the baby from the mother.
Okay.
That's the connection between the womb and the baby, or the mama. If you want to look at it in purely scientific terms, the mother is the host for the baby, and the host is what provides the nutrition for the baby to live. So the baby in way is parasitic. The baby is parasitic, meaning that it lives off of something else that has life. It draws its life, its nourishment from something else.
So is there not a connection with the Amazon giving out? Okay.
And the Amazon is the ecosystem that balances the climate worldwide. And there are other ecosystems that assist in that. The major one is the Amazon, but not the only one, okay? Because when you look at the coral reefs off the coast of Australia, off the coast of Florida, and other places around the world, California, etc., they are the balances of ecosystems for the oceans. So, but the Amazon is like, as you said, like the navel. Without it, nothing can survive in this earth because, as I said, it is the place where the ecosystem of the world finds its balance. So, in a sense, Evelyn, that would be right. But there are other contributors to the balance of the climate.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Rip, I got one more question, too. That's why Elon Musk and all the other rich people trying to build the ships and whatever to colonize Mars, because they know what they done did here. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. Quite frankly, this is not about colonizing Mars as much as it is about looking for minerals on Mars as well as looking for minerals on asteroids. They are looking to mine asteroids for the purpose of financial gain. Everything that they are doing in outer space is for one or two things: to make more money or to have an advantage during the time of war over those who they perceive to be their enemies. That's it. It has nothing to do with the balancing of humanity in this earth realm. It has everything to do with greed. That's greed is the bottom line. Anyone else? Ron?
Yes,
This
sir.
is Barbara. I just have a comment. In the animal kingdom, animals kill to eat, and most animals kill to eat, and they kill when they are hungry. They kill to survive. Most animals do not kill just for the sake of pleasure and leaving the kill. But a man who's animalistic, mankind with that kind of attitude, does things not just to survive, but out of just being evil, out of just being selfish, out of being greedy, out of being able to stash what it can take from someone else and keep for itself. And so in a lot of ways, in some ways, the animalistic mindset of mankind is even below the animalistic nature of animals.
And that is one of the reasons, Barbara, that animals are as vicious as they are, because they feed off of the energy of mankind. It's one thing, you reminded me of something. Years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, Rush Limbaugh said something that I agreed with. Rush Limbaugh said, if people love deer the way that they hunt deer, it will be sold in the grocery stores. People don't hunt deer because they love the meat. They hunt deer because they love to kill. And he was right. If you don't find people selling deer in the stores, they don't kill deer to sell. They kill deer for the kill, because none of them who's hunting has to hunt to eat. The weapon that they use to hunt with is cost enough money to feed them for months. So when we get to when the dominant energy in the earth is one of destruction, it doesn't stop with the destruction of the land because it overplants it. It doesn't stop with the destruction of the ocean because it puts its filth in it. It doesn't stop with heating up putting holes in the ozone because of the carbons that come from the emission of petroleum products. It doesn't stop with that. It's also the destruction of the animals in the forest. People hunt rabbits, and if they understood, well, if they hunt rabbits, why come they don't hunt rats? Because a rabbit, a squirrel, all of them are the same thing. All of them are rodents. They do it because they like to kill. And we have been taught it is a sport. And we do it because we were brought up doing it. And the reason we were brought up doing it is because we had to eat. When I was a little boy, I knew people who hunted because they wanted meat. And it was transformed into a sport by the dominant energy in the earth. And people continued to hunt because that's how they were brought up. hunting for meat, building what was called a rabbit gun for to trap rabbits so that they could eat. This was never a sport with the enslaved until the enslaved began to take on the attitude, as Audrey said, began to try to be something that it is not, and that is taking on the attitude of the enslaver. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Comment? Right.
Okay. Again,
Ron, may I ask you something?
of course.
I want to ask about a clarity between something, okay?
Yes.
Between were people clear on the difference between or the link between healing and wholeness?
You said healing
and wholeness.
wholeness. Okay.
Can we talk more about that, Pastor Jay, please?
Sure. The reason I raised that is because I felt like when we started talking about it yesterday, we morphed into something else. I was shown something else, and we went in a different direction. And that rose up in me yesterday about this after we had gotten off the phone. Healing speaks to the idea of deliverance. And it does not only speak to the healing of the body. And we know that, but we don't think about healing that way. Religion has taught us that healing is about making the body strong again, because sickness is about the weakening of the body. When we talk about healing, we talk about the healing of a nation, but we don't equate that to the type of healing that Jesus did, when it is exactly the same thing. Healing delivers you from a state of weakness and bring you to a state of strength. We say that you got to be sick in the mind to do things like that. If your mind is sick, that means that you are in a state of weakness. What is weakness? Where does it come from? Whenever our thoughts, whenever our desires are not in concert with the thoughts and desires of our Creator, we are in a state of weakness. Our mind is sick, and our bodies will follow our minds and become sick. And the only thing that can heal the body is the earth. And the only thing that can heal the sick mind is spirituality, becoming aware of who you are and embracing it. So when we talk about healing, we are talking about being delivered from a state of weakness. And when that takes place, that's when we began to see change in every aspect of this earth realm. Wholeness speaks of the idea of making space. The woman who Jesus spoke to and said, you have been made whole. You remember that? When Jesus said to her, you have been made whole, Jesus was saying, space has been created in you for you to become who you were created to be. You can be healed and still not be whole. There are people in this earth whose minds are not sick because they truly are searching for spirituality, and they truly believe that they have found it in the church. They truly believe that they have found it within the bounds of religion. They truly believe that. But they're not whole. There are people on this phone who's not whole. You can accept that you are a spiritual being, but if you don't live according to it, you're not whole. Because you, in order to create the space for you to live the way that you have been created, then you cannot juxtapose spirituality with religion. It's one or the other. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot be religious and spiritual at the same time. The wholeness comes when you move religion out of that space where spirituality belongs. However, you have to be healed first. Why is it then that Jesus said to this woman, "Thou hast been made whole"? When was she healed? She had tried everything. She had gone to everyone who said that they could help her. When she came to the understanding and embraced the reality that Jesus is who he is. He is a representation of who we are supposed to be. When she recognized that, that is the reason she pushed her way through the crowd, crawling to touch the hem of the garment. That simply is saying this: it does not matter how small the contact is with the truth, it can change your life. It can make you whole. She had moved everything else out of the way because she saw that there was no validity in it, there was no power in it, there was nothing in it that could restore her life and make her whole. When she recognized Jesus as the teacher that he was sent here to be, that's what made her whole. Any questions about this? Or is this helping you to see the difference or the connection between them? Hello?
Just processing.
See, sickness also comes from a word that means to grieve. That's why we talk about grief being a broken heart. If it's broken, it's sick. If it's broken, it's not whole. If it's broken, it needs to be repaired. It needs to be delivered from its brokenness. So this whole idea of spirituality, this whole idea of healing brings about a fresh beginning, and it repairs that which is damaged or broken. It also speaks to the idea of relaxing. If you are brokenhearted, it is extremely difficult for you to relax. But if your heart is healed and if your grief is lifted, then you are able to relax. All of these things leads us to letting something go so that we can put something in its place. And the thing that in its place that brings that balance is understanding the essence of our creation and who we were created to be. Is that clear, or do you have anything? Can you put this in different words, or is there anything to add to this that you have? I'm asking basically for input.
I don't get it.
I have a question.
Uh-oh.
Go ahead.
So in terms of when we were discussing the 10 lepers, so the one who came to the others, they were all healed, but the one who came to have an encounter with Jesus, he was made whole?
Yes,
Is that the difference?
that's the difference.
Okay,
What
let me ask
happens-
this other question. Does being made whole also include healing?
Absolutely.
Or can it exist without healing?
They work hand in hand. You can be healed. The others were healed from leprosy as they went,
Right.
remember?
Right?
But they didn't come back. They were healed, but they
But
weren't whole.
can you be whole without being healed?
No.
Okay, all right. Thank
When
you.
we look at the leprosy, this is what we see. We see that they were delivered from leprosy, which is healing. But they were not delivered from religion. That is the reason they continued on to show the priests. And the one who came back was the one who was made whole because he realized something. It wasn't the priest who healed me. It wasn't the priest who even cared enough to speak to me. When we cried out to the priest sent us off out of the village, sent us to a place that is desolate, to fend for ourselves, knowing that we were incapable of taking care of ourselves, so the priest sent us out to die. The rest of them wanted to be inclusive. They wanted to be accepted. They wanted the church so that when they got back to the church, they wanted to be made a part of that again, so that when they died, they have a place to have the funeral without having to pay for it, or a cemetery to be buried in, or somebody to pat them on their back and bring them up for a testimony about how they were healed. But the one saw more than that. It's not about where you're going to be buried, have your funeral, or being patted on the back. It's about understanding that not only you know the source of your deliverance, but you have become just like that source. And when the one who turned back is the one who was made whole, because he embraced the reality of what his healing brought to him. When the leprosy left him, his mindset shifted, and everything about the priest and the priest about religion, he emptied himself of that and replaced it with the reality of the presence of Jesus and the teachings of Jesus. Does that make sense to you, Audrey? And the rest of you, of course, but you raised the question.
Yes, very much so.
And therein lies all the difference. Before you can be healed, before you can be made whole, you have to recognize the reality that you're sick. And religion only says that we are sick when there is infirmity in our bodies, or when our minds are at a state where we cannot function in society anymore. However, the scriptures say you are sick when you are not aware of the spiritual nature of your existence. And when you are sick, you will farm land until it cannot produce anymore instead of letting it rest. When you are sick, you will continue to make fossil fuels, knowing that it's killing them. When you are sick, you will do whatever it takes to please you, and the only thing that pleases you is money. When you are sick, you don't care what happens or what kind of damage you're doing to the earth or other people in order to get what you want. That's when you are sick. When you recognize that sickness and desire to make a difference, that's when your healing begins. And when you understand what the healing is about, you are delivered from the greed. You are delivered from the selfishness. Now you take all your resources and make every effort to make sure that everyone who you can come in contact with has a part in this earth in terms of the way that they live, in terms of how you treat them, recognizing that there are no races. There are race in terms of R-A-C-E-S, not I-S-T. There are no races. There are just people in this earth. And that those who have much are required to share with those who have little or none. When you get to that place, that's when your wholeness begins. Because now what you're doing, you're removing the greed and the selfishness, and you are putting in its place what's supposed to have been there all the time, and that is an understanding of the spiritual nature of your being. Is that clear?
Yes. Pastor Jay. I'm sorry, Ron. Go ahead. I yield.
Well, I just want to add to something he just said. Not wholeness. Remember, also comes from the same root word that means to be completeness. And when we talked about that, wholeness it captures everyone. It is you, that thing that you are making room for, so that you be what you created to be. What you are created to be is Elohim in the earth. So you become enlightenment for all of mankind. You become the rhythm that all of mankind seek. Your words become rhythm. You become truth, and you become you become consumed by that which you love. That thing that you are pursuing consumes you to the fact that everyone recognizes. It's that thing that people come to you and for advice, and you wonder, this person wasn't talking to me 6 months ago, but he's coming to me for advice now because he sees something that in you that you may not even recognize. He's consumed by this thing. The thing you create space for that you thought just was for you is for everybody, for the entire earth. So it's more than just being healed, far more. That's all.
Sure. Appreciate that.
So I'll yield to whoever else want to speak, but I do see something, and I would like for y'all to correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, when we talk about wholeness, when we're creating that space, where does remembrance come in?
Remembrance is what brings you to wholeness. The lady tried everything she could, right?
Uh-huh.
So what is it in her that made her go to Jesus? It's because the depths of her soul spoke to her and propelled her in the direction of Jesus. And that in itself is a type of remembrance, the spiritual genetic code that we were created with. It's like when you say that something resonates with you.
Uh-huh.
What does that mean? That means that I can't explain it. I don't know. I don't really know everything that you just said, but it feels right. I just feel right because it spoke to genetic code that you were created, and that's why it resonates. That's why it is one with you, and that is a type of remembrance.
Sorry, can everyone on Zoom make sure you're on mute? I'm getting a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Also with the 10 lepers, I mean, he started off along with the others, but he turned around because he heard something. and that hearing was internal. He heard something. So yeah, I mean that's extremely important. And no doubt that maybe one of the other 9 that were with him heard it too. But as Pastor says, we want to, our desire to belong to something, to be a part of something, and maybe even to show that I was a part of a miracle and I'm healed, was greater than any desire to see and become truth. The other part is too, to grasp wholeness is a feminine concept. And when we say that, when we again, I try to speak to that as though somebody on the phone is hearing it for the first time. Creating space is moving out of the way so something can be added, so a seed can be put in you, and that is not something that everybody has learned to grasp or to want to be a part of. So that hearing, that it comes with a type of submission, whereas I have an anticipated expectation from the Creator. I see truth and I desire it, and I make room to it. I make room for it, and that is not that is a choice that one has to make, and not everyone is willing to do so.
I want to put that in some more deeper terms, Ron, say with clarity. When you say that, you know what they're saying. If you have to accept it, you have to open yourself up to it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if I try to force it on you, right, I'm trying to force a seed in you, am I not?
Correct.
That's spiritual rape. Think about that. I'm trying to force something in your spiritual womb that you don't want. That's spiritual rape. And that is the reason there is such rebellion when you get older. It's such rebellion when you come to an understanding that this doesn't make sense and everybody's still trying to force you. That is one of the reasons I say to you, you do not force anybody. You don't argue with them. If they ask you a question, answer it. If they challenge it, let it go. Why? Because you do not have the right to force yourself on anyone. You do not have the right to force a seed of enlightenment in the womb of someone who do not want to be enlightened or who think that they are already enlightened. Is that clear? Can you see the parallel?
Yes.
We have to make sure that what we are doing is not forcing ourselves. When you are teaching someone, you are not forcing yourself on them. The whole concept, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, means that the student has opened his womb to receive the seed of enlightenment. If the teacher appears before the student is ready, then the teacher is forcing himself on the student. When we talk about being in rhythm, we are talking about being on the same wavelength. If you listen at the music of indigenous people, its rhythm is the same rhythm of the earth. Why is it that the people who are seeking enlightenment who are in rhythm. Why is it that hard rock, hard rap, why is it that certain types of music grate on you? Why is it that it's like teaching somebody to dance? If you cannot teach them to be in rhythm with the music, you cannot teach them to dance. Anyone who desires to learn how to dance can learn. Anyone who desires to be in rhythm with the earth can do it. Anyone who desires enlightenment can find it. Anyone. If you think about the way that all of us came together, and I'm talking about every person on this phone, no evangelist came to you and said, you need Jesus in your life. I want to take you to my church. Nobody did that. How did we come together? Some of you came out of curiosity. Some of you don't even know how you got there. Some of you were already there and stayed because things resonated, while many left. What am I saying? You were ready to learn how to dance. You were ready to be in rhythm. The teacher appeared when the student is ready. So the student shows up and the teacher teaches. And there are those who show up and they leave. Why? Because they think they already know. And the things that come from the mouth of the teacher does not sit well with them because they do not want to set their religion aside, or they don't want to purge themselves of those religious antics that makes them popular. Singing, speaking in tongues, those types of things. Teaching from a Sunday school book as opposed to teaching from your soul. So when we talk about the rhythmic nature of the earth and the rhythmic nature of the beings that were created in this earth, we are talking about a type of unicity that is so in tune until you cannot even feel its presence, but you know it's there. What you do see is that there are things that you cannot embrace because it doesn't feel right. When things feel right, it's easy to embrace them. And once you embrace them, they don't bother you anymore. Example, when you say that something resonates with you and 2 weeks later you hear it, it doesn't resonate anymore. You've embraced it. Once you embrace it, you don't feel that experience that you had when you first heard it because it has become a part of you. Why? Because you have known from the beginning that that is who you are. And now that you have accepted that portion of who you are ready to move forward with something else that you are unaware of at that point. And the next thing that resonates with you is the next thing you need to hear. And that is the reason we cannot determine what we are going to teach from day to day. That is the reason we cannot predetermine the answers we're going to give when questions are raised. That is why we are not we cannot predetermine what we are going to say when we are counseling someone or when we are helping someone to be renewed or helping someone to get beyond their hurt, to get beyond their pain, to get beyond their sickness, to bring them to a place of healing. We cannot have preconceived ideas about how it's going to be or what we're going to say. Why? Because we don't know what type of rhythm we're going to have to change within them. We don't know where they're coming from, which means that the lack of rhythm that they have is something that we have to contend with as it happens, as opposed to making a determination of how we're going to do it before we get there, because we don't know what we are going to experience until we get there. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So readiness is being open to something or opening oneself up for something. So readiness equates to the same thing similarly as creating space for something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do. I'm open to something different. That's the same as creating space in a sense. The issue is the intent of the creation of space.
And you know what, Barbara? Something different. You know what that turns out to be? Serendipitous. Because the thing that you thought was going to be something new is who you were all the time. So it's not new. That's why it resonates. See where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
That's why it resonates. Because it strikes what we call it. We say, well, that struck a nerve. You know? Well, that makes sense to me. That's because it's speaking to who we were created to be. Let me share this with you. The uneasiness that some of us have or have experienced when we are to teach, that uneasiness because we don't know the direction it's going to take or we don't see it all. It's not like it once was, where we could make all of these notes and we could teach from all of these notes. It's not like that anymore. Why? Because when we are teaching, we are not processing with our intellect. We are processing with our soul. Intellect is not bad. It's simply that intellect has been taught to do the wrong thing. Intellect processes based upon the values of this world, of this earth consciousness. The soul processes on the basis of what it was created to be. And if we have these notes, we struggle sometimes because we are trying to put it all together. So what happened? There was a time when we were between the notes and not. We would try to teach from the notes, and everything changed. And nothing we had planned to teach, we didn't teach any of it. Everything changed. At that point, we were being trained to listen to our soul. We're at a place now, regardless of what comes up, we do not know what direction is going in, neither do we know what we're going to be shown. But we do trust something. We trust that our desire to be enlightenment, our desire to enlighten the earth in totality is what brings us to this place of trusting that regardless of the scripture that's read or the question that's raised, the soul knows how to respond to it. And it does not have to process through the intellect that was trained in schools or the intellect that was trained in the ways of the thoughts that we were reared in. Our thoughts, our minds process like the mind of who taught us. Our minds process like the European. Our soul process like the Eastern man. And therein lies the difference. That is one of the reasons it is imperative that we take every opportunity to bring truth and enlightenment to everyone who is seeking it. It doesn't matter whether they are a Caucasian, an African, a Native American. It doesn't matter who they are. It is imperative that we bring enlightenment with every opportunity that we get, because enlightenment shows us there are no differences. Enlightenment shows us the power of our speech, the power of our presence. Enlightenment shows us all of these things that are necessary for us to live as humans in this earth. Does that make sense? Or any questions? Comment?
No questions. I was just reminded of something when you and Barbara were talking. I was reminded of the lessons that we did when we were talking about our boom. We first started talking about father, mother, and Sheldon went into that chant, boom, and we talked about our ancestors and hearing your grandmothers or your great grandmothers on the porch or in the field with their humming. That's being one with the universe, and that and the reason why I bring that up again is we are there. It's not like we gotta think, how do I become one with the universe? We're already there. You know how to do this. And to show you how powerful this is, if you go online and you go on YouTube, you can listen to it now. They'll tell you that there are scientists that have studied this and can tell you what frequency it is that you need to listen to, the type of music, to be in line with the universe. So
go ahead, Ron.
I'm sorry. No, I was just saying just to show you how powerful this thing is and how much of a self-reward is. And if you're in search of peace or anxiety is overtaking you for whatever reason. One other comment I wanted to make, something Barbara said when she talked about readiness. Part of completeness and wholeness talks about completeness, but part of it means is being in the presence at every given moment. In other words, being ready to be whatever you need to be, whether it's for yourself or for someone else. It takes you to that place, and it's not something that you practice, it's something that you become. I'm done.
Thank you, sir. I was talking with Don a few weeks ago, and when we were actually talking about some music that he's doing, and he says to me, he said that the music that I'm making is different. And I asked him what was the difference. And he said to me that the frequency of the universe is whatever, I can't remember what it is. And he said that rap music, hard rock, gospel music, they are at a totally different frequency, and is at a frequency that agitates. He didn't use the word soul. I can't remember what he said in that regard, but that's what it amounted to. And he said that the music that I made is in rhythm, at the same frequency of the universe. Why? Because when it's at the same frequency of the universe, then it speaks to your soul, your mind.
Oliver Mtukudzi.
Would you please mute if you're on Zoom?
Deeply loved, respected, famous, you could say, musician from Zimbabwe.
Hello.
You know more of his music than you think. But anyway, he died recently. But one of the things he said in an interview on NPR, he was on the Tiny Desk thing once. Someone asked him, do you ever write lyrics for fun, for just, kind of like a lot of pop, rap, whatever? And he said he didn't understand. And he said music for him is always a message. And so the rhythm is always something that's related to that and profound. There's no such thing as just frivolous weekend. Now, that doesn't mean his music isn't happy. That doesn't mean people don't love dancing to it. They do. I certainly did. But anyway, it's a small joy in my life that I was able to see him twice, actually. I'm just sorry others that I knew and loved, cared for, couldn't. But, all right.
So Don was saying that the frequency and the rhythm are the same in essence, and that is the reason that the drum. That's the reason the keyboard are in concert with each other, because of the rhythm. All musical instruments, but let me put it this way. I don't know of any string, keyboard, or horn, drum, any instruments that originated in Europe. None that I know of. So we're talking about a group of people who were able to make music not because they were smarter than everyone else, but because they were one with the universe. And the music that they made was not something they made up. It was something that they were experiencing as being one with the universe, which means that when you are one with the universe, when you are when you are one with a room, when you are one with that, you affect the rhythm of the earth in a positive way. I was talking to someone a few weeks ago, and I said to this person, they were talking to me about the music I was listening to because I was on the phone with them in my car, and I said, I listen to R&B. I can't listen. I don't listen to gospel music. It just doesn't move me because the lyrics means nothing. It doesn't speak to the scripture. It doesn't speak to my soul. Isn't that funny? That R&B can speak to my soul? Why? Gospel music talks about something that's not real. It doesn't talk about men loving each other, mankind loving each other. It doesn't talk about that. It always talks about loving a Jesus who doesn't exist, a loving God. It doesn't speak to humanity. And that is different. I clearly remember, would you please mute your phone? I clearly remember saying to the group, tell me, every song that you sing has to be in line with the scripture. Show me where it's in line. That's the most difficult task that I've ever given. Now, let me move you to something else in terms of rhythm and show you something. One of the songs, and I'm going to move off to this and get back to healing and wholeness. One of the songs that is most revered in the church, in our lives, any of us, and that song has touched us. You know what that song is? Amazing Grace. Someone is walking around. Would you please mute your phone? Or mute Zoom. Thank you. That song was written on a slave ship by a slave ship captain. One of the most brutal slave ship captains to ever live. That's how that song. That's who wrote that song. Where did it come from, and what does it touch? Would anyone would like to respond to that? Why? How is it was he able to do that and it touch? To me, it was a message. Regardless of how evil you are, regardless of how much hate you have in your heart, it doesn't matter how superior you think you are. There is something in your soul that reminds you that you are not disconnected from the one who created you. What am I saying to you? The most vicious Klansman, the most evil person ever walked this is a part of us. And it is incumbent upon us to recognize that just as that slave ship captain could write that song and it touched folks, our anger toward that man, mute your phone. Not fair to other people who are trying to hear if you don't keep your phones muted. Thank you. Now, are you doing this on purpose? Would everyone check to make sure you're muted? Thank you. The most evil person, like the one, are you trying to distort what I'm saying? The most evil person on this earth has been given to us to bring light to them without regard to who they are, what they've done, and what they plan to do. That man on that ship is the one who needs us. That man that ran over that girl in Charlottesville, that lady in Charlottesville, is the one who needs us. Those 3 men who killed Aubrey are the ones who needs us. When we say that after an event like that happens, all of a sudden you begin to say, oh my God, what have I done? That is an opening for us to reach someone as opposed to being angry with them. Am I saying what they did is righteous? No, I'm not. But I am saying that our anger, without seeking to transform, is unrighteous. When we are made whole, we see the message that's being sent through the actions of mankind. When we are whole, we see differently than we did before we were made whole. There are those who will be upset with us, but we got to do the right thing regardless of how it makes others look at us. When we are whole, our attitude is different. Why? Because the thing that kept us from being whole has been healed. We have been delivered from the thing that kept us from being whole. That is why you can sit in a religious service and hear someone preaching and it makes no sense to you, it grates on you. Wholeness is about being in rhythm and being one with the universe. Wholeness is seen, is experienced, as Ron said earlier, when someone who was not even talking to you comes to you for advice. And you're not angry with them. You're not upset with them. You give them good advice. Wholeness is the objective of everyone who is whole. The objective is to make others whole, but the objective of the teacher is to make everyone whole. Heal the sickness. Deliver them from the sickness. And show them what wholeness looks like. When Jesus brought healing to people, Jesus did it without discriminating against anyone. Jesus did it without regard to who was Hebrew or who was Roman. Jesus did it without regard to who was brutal and who was not. Jesus did what Jesus did because Jesus knew something that he was teaching us. In order for us to be who we were created to be, we must seek to not only heal, but to bring wholeness to the centurion, just like we want to bring wholeness to the woman with the issue of blood. Does that make sense? Are there any questions? Because if there's not, those are the things I wanted to look at, Ron, between sickness and wholeness. Now, beyond that, that's fine. But that's one. Those are the things I wanted to point out. Thank you.
Questions or comments, y'all? There was something that I wanted to look at here, but we were going to look at some healing or something else to do with healing. It's 12:30 though. How do you guys feel? How do you feel, Pastor? You want to?
Let's pick it up tomorrow. And the reason I say that is because whatever it is going to, we're not going to be able to do it justice before we get off the phone.
Yeah.
That, and if we are shown anything, we should have the space to be thorough as possible anyway. And because there are some people, I'm sure, who have already made, plans to do other things, and there are people who have to take care of things around the house.
Yes.
So that's just
okay.
Would you do it? Be open to doing it tomorrow?
Yes, sir. Of course.
Okay. All right. That's when we'll do it.
For those who I was looking at Mark chapter 1, verses 29 through 31. Jesus healing Simon's mother. It relates to what we just talked about. Mother-in-law, excuse me. But however, just like today, if we moved in a different direction, we'll get to this at some point. If not tomorrow, but if tomorrow permits, that's what we'll talk about. But please bring your questions and or comments, because if we move in another direction, then we move in another direction. Y'all know how we do this. Okay? But just in case somebody may want to know. But anyway, everyone on the phone may know who that is. But will you please let everybody please mute the phone? It's extremely important. It's not fair to everybody. And if you're on the phone and you're not giving 100%, maybe you can listen to a recording later. Okay? Well, thank you. I hope everybody have a great day.
Yes. Thank you,
Thank
Ron.
you, Ron.
Thank you, Sage. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.